Hey guys, welcome to my first Project Diablo 2 video. I started playing PD2 at the tail end of Season 2, and for Season 3, I settled on playing the Fury Druid. I've never played the Fury Druid, or rather any Druid class before, so it's a class I've never played, and it's been a brand new challenge. So after scouring the internet for any helpful guides on Fury Druid, I did some research and found out, well, there just wasn't any for Season 3. I thought, well, let me take a crack at making something. So without further ado, here's my Season 3 Fury Druid Uber Tristram guide and build. First things first, bring a lot of rejuves. I mean, a lot. This goes without saying, but if you're doing Uber Tristram or Declone in Season 3, there's only a one-way entrance portal, and after that, you have to defeat all the bosses in order to get a portal to exit, so bring a lot of rejuves. So there's no particular order you'll want to engage the bosses in. Simply put, you'll definitely want to do your best job of isolating each boss so that they're alone. Isolating each boss is actually one of the hardest things to do as a Fury Druid. With no means of teleportation, isolating each boss can take a lot of time and rejuves, and with all the ads that spawn, it can be a huge nuisance. Before I go into the strategy on how I defeat each boss, I thought it would be a good idea to go over some of the changes with Season 2 to Season 3. The biggest change to Uber Tristram is that it's now treated like the Declone fight, where you're instantly teleported into Tristram without a portal back to town. This is a huge change because you were able to revive your Merc, place more potions on your character if you ran out, or you could even choose the fight by dying and re-entering the game, or, getting your friends to come in and help you if you weren't able to finish the fight. So that's a huge change, and, well, that makes this fight entirely more difficult in the fact that you pretty much have one life and one chance. It took a little bit of time for me to kind of figure out how to beat Lilith. I know for a while I was switching between Vamp Gaze and Service Bite, but eventually I ended up getting a string of ears, and that kind of fixed a lot of the PDR issues I was having. So, I mean, really, I don't think this build is too expensive or GG. I kind of consider it to be in the middle of the road. This clip right now I'm playing is actually pretty funny. I almost died here. If you play Fury Druid and you get to a low enough HP, you actually get taken out of wolf form, so you'll see that right there. And yeah, it was a close fight. I almost lost it and would have to kind of trash this whole recording, so good thing I didn't die there. So you might be casual like me and always forget to refill your rejuves, so make sure you keep your belt fully stocked. And I'm not sure if you just noticed that, but I also had rejuves in my cube, and when you throw the cube on the ground, what you're essentially doing is emptying the cube very quickly. So by throwing a cube full of rejuves on the floor, you're able to quickly put all those rejuves in the cube into your inventory. So it makes it easier to kind of refill your belt. One thing you'll notice throughout the video is that you'll see me summoning a couple of different things like wolves and bears and spirits. Don't really worry too much about summoning the wolves. You'll ideally want to focus on having the spirit up as much as possible. The bear can prove to be a decent meat shield against the ads, but typically you want to resummon when you're away from danger. So any chance you get away from the boss, go ahead and resummon your bear and your spirit. Have them hotkeyed, and you should have no problem with that. So you can see right here. So one thing I'll mention is that while I don't have any mapping footage, this Fury Druid can pretty much do maps easily with no gear swap. Maybe in the future I'll make a video showing off the Fury Druid in a map, but let me know in the comments below if you want to see that. And so before I get into the build for the Fury Druid, I'd just like to go over a couple of pros and cons. Starting with the cons. The cons for Fury Druid is that they don't use a shield, and they don't have anything like Holy Shield that Zealers have. So they have low defense, and because they don't have a shield, they also have no block, which means every single hit is taken. And because you take every single hit, your repair bill can get pretty high, and one of the ways to get around the repair bill is to carry a Fort or Ral rune, which can be used to repair your weapon and armor. So just don't worry too much about the Chains of Honor taking a lot of damage and then costing you 1,000,000 gold. You could just use a rune to repair it. So that's a huge helpful tip that I learned kind of late, and I thought I would share with everybody. Other than that, some of the other cons for Fury Druid is that your summons don't really last long, and granted you're not as like summoning druid, but it is good to spec a point into bear to have a meat shield. It'll just feel like a bit of a waste sometimes, but your points kind of don't really have anywhere else to be spent. So it's good to get that bear. Other than that, really high faster hit recovery is required. I think the breakpoint is 86, so you'll want to make sure you have the 86 faster hit recovery breakpoint, which you can see later on in the video when I show my statistics. Other than that, the last con would probably be that the spirit feels like a waste sometimes, mainly because it's the last thing you're going to be capping, and the spirit dies very frequently. As you can see, I'm already resummoning it here in this fight for, I don't know, the 100th time. But you'll spec a lot of points into the spirit, and it can feel like a total waste because the spirit doesn't really get any stronger. I'd love to see a change where the more points you have in the spirit, the more tankier it gets, but, you know, I'm not a developer, so currently it's just something we have to live with and hope that maybe it'll change in the future. Some of the pros for playing Fury Druid is that their attack speed is very fast. Similar to the Zealer Paladin, it takes full advantage of Soul Drainers, so Soul Drainer gloves are really great on a Fury Druid, and you know, there's a whole lot of other pros that I would love to get into, but this video itself is the showcase, of the pros, so really it's great. It's a great class. It's all around really good for Uber Tristram, mini Ubers, and mapping. I can't speak to Declone yet because I haven't done it. Okay, so we're finally at the portion of the video where I know a lot of you have probably come to see, which is the gear in the build for the Fury Druid. So in the next couple of images, I'll go over what I'm wearing and kind of some of the alternatives that I think would be really helpful for a Fury Druid doing Uber Tristram. I'm using a Windhammer with 4 open sockets. 2 have Shale runes in them for the 100 IAS total, and the other 2 are jewels with ED and max damage. Some of the alternative weapons I can recommend are the Tomb Reaver, which has resistances, but you want to get that to 100 IAS, and Rib Cracker, which is a really great weapon if you are able to manage at least 3 or 4 sockets on the Rib Cracker. I think it's maybe 3, but you want 100 IAS in that as well, or at least as close to possible. The Chains of Honor is probably the best in slot for Fury Druid. It has +2 all skills, it gives it extra damage, some lifesteal, some much needed strength to hit the Windhammer requirement, and gives you all resistances. And the Fury Druid suffers the most with all resistances, so anything that can give you all resist, like the Chains of Honor, is super welcome. And then as an added bonus, the physical damage taken reduced by 4% is really great. Some of the alternatives could be a Leviathan with open sockets using ums, or a Shaft Stop with open sockets using ums for the all resist. So again, you're looking for physical damage reduction, or you're looking for something that gives you some added skills, resists, strength, and damage. Now I know it's not shown, but I'm also using a Call to Arms and a Lidless on my offhand for the battle orders and other buffs. For gloves, you're going to want the Soul Drainers. Everything about them is amazing for a Fury Druid, so you can try using Dracules as an alternative, but I don't think that'll work very well. So this is kind of one of those must-need items. On the right, I have Gore Riders. I got super lucky with the slam with the Cannot Be Frozen. It's probably the best slam I've had all season on any item, and unfortunately I still use the Ravenfrost in Uber Tristram for the Cold Absorb, and Ravenfrost already has CBF, but Either way, these boots are awesome, and I don't really have an alternative either for those, so these two items are kind of mandatory. So here's where things get a little interesting. The Cerebus Bite I have is really nice. Obviously, you want to get one with a +4 shape-shifting skills and the +2 feral rage, since those are the skills you're going to be using. You want to look for something with 2 open sockets so you can get at least some added resistances, especially if you need them. The 33% deadly strike is super welcome for Uber Tristram and the open wound. So I mean, a lot of this helmet is really great. The one thing I'll say though is the Vamp Gaze as an alternative can really make you tankier, and if you feel that you need to be tankier, this is probably the one item you could replace with the Vamp Gaze. So feel free to try the Vamp Gaze out if you don't think the Cerebus Bite is giving you enough tankiness. For the belt, I'm using String of Ears. I tried the Verdungos in the beginning, and the extra PDR, even though it's really small on the String of Ears here, is really nice. I was able to get a added Strength Slam, which then means I have less points to spec into Strength and more into Vitality. So think about that as well when you're building your Fury Druid. So again, an alternative to String of Ears is Verdungos. Verdungos gives you the added faster hit recovery that you need again, and the 86 breakpoint can be kind of difficult to hit. So Verdungos kind of makes that a lot easier. For Uber Trist, I use a combination of 4 rings. The 2 on the right are all resist rings, and you can swap them out for the Ravenfrost if you don't have Cannot Be Frozen. The other thing that the Ravenfrost provides is the Cold Absorb, and that, particularly with Bale, is really helpful. So I do actually wear the Ravenfrost for Bale, and then the all resist rings, you can choose to either wear them with Bale and Meph or just with Meph. The Dwarf Star is just for Diablo, mainly for the Fire Absorb. I was lucky enough to get a slam with reduced curse duration, but it's only 10%, so it's not like it's a GG Dwarf Star, but it's definitely a good one. So the High Lords is, I would say, required for Uber Trist. If you want to do it in a timely fashion, you really want the 20% IAS and the 22% deadly strike that you get from a character level on the amulet. Everything else kind of is just an added bonus. For a while I was using Metal Grid to kind of get my resists up, and the Atmos Scarab can be okay if you don't have a problem with resists for the amplified damage. On the right you'll see the shape-shifting Grand Charm. The ones that I was looking for are ones with faster hit recovery, so you just want to make sure that you get to 86%. So however many skillers it takes with faster hit recovery is something that you're going to need. Okay, so we're finally at the point where we're getting to the skills for the Fury Druid. It's relatively simple and really easy. I'll throw up a chart here in a second that you can see. So everything on the right in the shape-shifting tab, you're going to want to go ahead and max out everything that has the arrow pointed to it in red. On the left, you want to max out the Heart of the Wolverine last, but you can see that I do put a point into the bear, which does help being a meat shield at sometimes, but not really, because they always get wiped out by every boss. And again, I already mentioned this before, but it's a little frustrating with the Spirit of the Wolverine being, you know, level 24 here and getting wiped out in one shot. But it is what it is, and that's pretty much it for the Fury Druid. So I'm just gonna go over my Merc real quick. Not gonna spend too much time on him, mainly because he doesn't live long enough. But I just wanted to highlight the Guardian Angel that he has for the maximum resist, the Vamp Gaze for the physical damage reduction, and the Doombringer actually is for the Weaken Curse. Anytime I can land a Weaken Curse on a boss, that means the boss is going to do less damage to me and my Merc, which gives my Merc more tankability, so hopefully you can soak up some more damage. The character sheet here, nothing too special to point out, it's just the Merc's stats. Here's the character sheet for my Druid. 3 things to note: the overcapped resists, the 120 IAS, and having hit recovery of at least 86. Here I'm showing my character stats. Just enough strength for Windhammer, about 225. No points in dexterity, no points in energy, and the rest in vitality. Here I'm quickly just going over a quick summary of the items I was already using that I've already shown just before. And diving into the charms, I'm using a lot of max damage charms. I think the max damage helps physical damage dealers a lot. If you can find life on them, that also helps. You'll see a couple of all resist charms because, again, resists are difficult to cap. If you can get your hands on a torch, that would really help. I was able to get my hands on a torch with my friends, so anytime you can do Uber Trist with some friends, that greatly will help in the conquest to actually do this solo. So yeah, definitely get yourself a torch, and if you can't get a torch with some friends, check the trade site. They're not too expensive. So that about wraps it up for the build. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in there as well. I'll go ahead and try to answer as many as I can, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. It would help my channel out a lot. I plan to come out with some more Diablo 2 content in the future. Now, for the rest of this video, I'm going to go ahead and talk about some of the strategies and tendencies that I like to use in Uber Tristram, like, for example, having the Merc tank here. Merc positioning is pretty important. If your Merc can tank Meph, it will greatly help reduce the amount of pot slamming you're going to do, and any damage your Merc can soak is a huge win. So do your best to kind of keep your Merc alive. I know it's kind of difficult managing two different healths, but if you can do it, it's really beneficial in the long run. You'll see here in this clip, there's two things going on. One, my Merc actually gets to cast weaken damage, which is great because that means he's going to be able to soak up some more damage from either his adds or from Diablo himself. The second thing you'll notice is that my positioning is really poor. I should not have been standing right behind my Merc there, and otherwise he would still be alive. So again, it's as simple as kind of figuring out where to position yourself so that your Merc doesn't get in kind of harm's way. The other thing to also note is that because Diablo is one of the few bosses that you can actually lifesteal from, some of his adds are actually beneficial to you, so you kind of want to keep them close so that way you can lifesteal off of them, and it really helps making the fight go easier. Essentially, you're actually able to tank a little bit more because of the extra lifesteal that you're going to have from his adds. So right here is a good example. I'm getting lightning, there's a lot of fire, and there's a lot of add, and I'm able to kind of just sit in there and tank because I'm also hitting the add. Another thing you'll want to practice is the boss positioning. Boss positioning is another micro game where you definitely can't face tank some bosses like Meph and all of his adds. You'll definitely want to do your best to position Meph and other bosses so that you're fighting them using as much as the environment as possible. For example, the buildings you can use to block incoming damage from adds as well as from Diablo, Baal, or Meph. Here I'm just face tanking a little bit, but I mean, there's a building right there to the bottom. I could be using that building to my advantage so that I'm not constantly worrying about slamming pots down my throat. Again, it takes some practice and it's a good strategy to use. I know a lot of other people do. It takes a lot of patience to be able to kind of move away from your fight, but it's also something to note that if you move away from, you know, kind of like your lifesteal, you're endangering yourself, you know, and you could possibly die if you move too far away from things to lifesteal. For Meph, there isn't really too much of a strategy. It's kind of just face tanking him and slamming pots, or as I like to say, just tank and spank. It's not much strategy except watch out for his adds because you can't leech off of them. Doing Meph with, say, a life tap wand, you could try that too, but it's kind of difficult with the druid because you would have to come out of the werewolf form. If you have a necro friend, it definitely would make life a lot easier. But again, positioning is important with Meph. As you can see here, Meph's in the house, and I can use the house to my advantage. Some of the adds that he spawned are outside the house, and they kind of have to walk into the house in order to attack me. So positioning really is important, and Meph is a pain in the butt when they're in the house too. Once you finish off Meph, you'll definitely want to clear some of the ads. It can be a real pain if you keep him alive. So for Bale, you just want to watch out for his lower resist curse. He's similar to Meph, where you need to tank and spank him. Spank and tank him? Whichever. Just watch out for the lower resist. That's that purple aura that's currently above me on my character. That will lower your resist a lot, and with that cold arrow that he shoots out, it can hurt a lot. There's always a chance that Bale kind of combo breakers you, where he does a couple of cold arrows and he sprays his little mana burning shout on you. And what you want to just make sure of is that you're wearing your Raven Frost. That definitely helps a lot with the cold absorb. So yeah, it's just a tank and spank and tank, and Bale should be pretty easy. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. Feel free to pop into one of my streams, as you can catch me live on Twitch and YouTube. I currently don't have a schedule, so please check out the links in the description and follow to be notified when I go live. If there's anything I missed, please feel free to leave some feedback in the comment section down below. If you were able to do Uber Tristram because of this video, please be sure to come back and smash that like button. Thanks for watching. Peace!